My name is Karen Nonjang. I am a member of the Life Transformers Ministries, and I've been a worshiper here for a very long time by the grace of God. I met Apostle Divine in Kumba. I was in Kumba in 2011. Then I was in CAS Kumba, Cameroon College of Art and Science, and he usually comes there for his evangelisms, and he had other students that were so glued to following him. So at first I hated him because when he gets into the school, everybody was like, hey, Papa is coming, Papa Divine, Papa is coming. I was like, who is this Papa, first of all? And he's a Nigerian. Everybody, Papa, Papa, Papa. My classmates were like, Papa is coming. So he usually had a Bible session behind the school. My classmates would go there. So one day my classmate invited me there that I should come and just have an experience of it. I did not even want to hear anything about the guy because everybody loved him. Now which man this way all man would like, and so I just said, okay, let me go. I went there, and as God will have it, I was located by prophecy. So funny, I didn't want to believe I was the one he was talking to. So then I'm sure God touched my heart. I got up, I responded. Everything he said was true about the prophecy, and that is how come I got to know Apostle Divine, and from that hatred it turned to love. Well, personally, Apostle Divine C.Okafor has been very, very impactful in a greater measure in my entire life, because I didn't know, I grew up from a Christian home. But the Christian home I'm talking about is a general idea. I didn't know nothing about God. When I got to meet him, he opened my mind about the personality of God. He opened my mind about my own personality, who I am, how God has created me, what I am to achieve, and the kind of person he sees in me. So personally, that impact has been great, because at this moment there is what I call personal development that came directly from Apostle Divine. He taught me a lot. I was not as bold as I am now. Part of my boldness came from Apostle Divine, because when you see Apostle Divine, you see a man that is full of so much life, and you wouldn't want to walk beside such a man, and you wouldn't be able to grasp anything. No, Apostle Divine impacted my life positively in that he made me to be strong-minded. He made me to love God, to be committed, especially in the things of God, and not just in the things of God, but in whatever I have been commissioned to do. I think one of the impacts, the greatest impact he brought to my life, aside knowing Christ, is being committed to your cause. My experience being beside the apostle. Each time I talk about the apostle, it's like when I open the door, I'm going to see him, but I know he lives on, because spirits don't die. I had so many experiences being beside the apostle. Firstly, he was a man full of life. He was a man full of so many, how do I put it? I don't want to call it mystery, but he was a man full of a lot of wisdom. When you sit or when you're beside Apostle Divine, you see a man that God has endowed so much wisdom in him. I remember one time, one of the experiences I'll never forget was a time we were gathered together some years ago at the Transformers camp. Around 9 p.m. he gathered some of us. He had a book. The book, I don't really know the title, but he had a book he was reading, and he was teaching us about subconsciousness. I'll never forget that, because it brought a lot of awareness into my being. That's one of the experiences I've had with the apostle that I'll never forget. He was not personally teaching me. We were in a gathering, and I had to pick that one. And I've had several experiences. I had one again some time ago there at Muya 2012. We were praying in our own session, and he was praying in his room. And after our prayers, we got out from the room. Normally we had to go and greet him as our spiritual father because we were staying with him together. And when I stepped out, what I saw was like a cloud, or a particular environment up there was just filled with smoke. Everywhere was smoke, and he came out and was like, what's happening? To him it's nothing, but what we saw, we were seeing something different. He was like, there's God here. That's just one of them. Another one was in Kumba. We were just about 6 of us. He called us that it's good we have 3 days of food, of water, and just be together in a room. And we went there somewhere around Kaskumba in 2011. This was before we brought our advanced levels. And we were praying together again. That great experience. The whole room was filled with smoke, and I don't know if I should call it the atmosphere was cloudy, but it was smoke, and the fragrance from it was so beautiful. And at that moment, he wanted to say something, and he was demonstrating with his hands. Immediately through his hands, we saw lightning from his hands, and somehow I was just very young into the field of being a Christian, and I was scared. But then it gave me so much assurance that I am with the right person. I would say God used the apostle in a mighty way, inexplicable ways, indescribable ways. And there are so many testimonies that if we want to start recounting, I bet you, I'm sure we will take the whole year to recount his testimonies. I'll never forget AOA, Acts of the Apostle, was a program he introduced by the leading of the Holy Spirit. And then at the Grace Hall, this was approximately 2018, in April, if my memory doesn't fail me. There was a certain woman who came who had not seen for 10 good years. She was a farmer. She came with her daughter. They attended the Acts of the Apostles. When the man of God came, he prayed for them. The most amazing part of this testimony is this. After he had prayed for them, he left to do ministration for service because it was a Sunday. And all of a sudden, we heard shouts. Hey, the people started shouting, and it was like, what's happening? The lady said in her words, I see corn, because then the camp was not built the way it is now. So everywhere was just maize. People had planted maize, and everywhere was just filled with maize. And the woman said, I see corn, I feel you. So when then the shepherd asked her, Mama, sister, they see corn. That was when we finally confirmed that truly she could not see. And the daughter said, this woman had not seen for 10 good years, and the first thing she saw after that prayer from the man of God was corn, according to her. This was so amazing. I was so touched because it was so real to me, very real. And talking about AOA, we had a lot of testimonies. Mama Suzanne, I'm sure her memory will never get off my mind. She came, she had lumbar spondylosis, and I'm sure she was coming from Equatorial Guinea. She had been down for several years, and the man of God prayed for her. Oh my God. She was laid down. The man of God came, prayed for her, took off the lumbar corset, and immediately that woman stood up. So when I look at this Mama Suzanne, I'm like, indeed, God used Apostle Divine to bring so much joy in the lives of women. I mean, women who had given up. Like there was no hope for them. Families which were completely shattered. Families which were completely shattered. He brought a lot of hopes to them. There are so many of them. And if I want to go back to memory lane, I will never forget this particular testimony of Madam Zu Pamela. The testimonies are so enormous. And I'm so emotional because I stayed with him. I was by him, and I saw him. But then the moment you see a father who tells you to go and do an assignment, the next minute you're seeing a completely different person. That's the most amazing thing about the apostle. And indeed, God used him so greatly to impact lives. And myself, I am a miracle. Apostle Divine C.Okafor, his characters were so amazing. He was a man full of so much life. He is one that at the moment you want to say he has wisdom, the next time you want to say he's not human. I remember a particular scenario in 2012. We were planning to go to church. So we're together, we were preparing to go to church. He came and he made a particular statement. And all of us looked at ourselves. And immediately we got out what he said happened. So I don't know how to characterize a man who speaks and it comes to pass. But all I can say is that if wisdom is a character, then Apostle Divine was wisdom. If grace was a character, then he was. If humility was a character, then Apostle Divine was. I am really overwhelmed talking about the apostle because he's a man that has brought a lot of light to Christendom in Cameroon, especially. His passion for evangelism was inborn. He had so much passion for God. He was so selfless. He was not a man that was full of himself, like God is using me so I can just do anyhow. No. He had an enormous passion for the things of God. You find joy when he says, God has asked me to do this. He doesn't care who starts on the way, he goes about doing it. He goes on to do it. He doesn't care who will say what or what will happen. That was not his business. He was so conscious, 100% conscious of his commission, of his commitment, of his purpose. I'm sure his confidence in his calling made him to be so passionate because he knew his direction. He knew who had called him, and he knew the kind of mandate God mandated him into. And I really want to thank God because this is a man whose passion for God is felt till today. You see it from his followers. You see it from our now man of God, Shepherd Hastings. When you see the passion, you knew that no, this thing is a driving force. And that was what was in the apostle that gave me so much confidence. When you see a man with such passion, what else do you want to follow? Who else do you want to follow? Why not follow a man that has so much passion for the things of God? So his passion was 100%. How Apostle Divine started, it was so amazing. And interestingly, Apostle Divine started as a saint, because when I knew him in Kumba, he was Saint Divine. Some people call him Brother Divine. Then when he moved from Kumba to Boya, some of us were so close to him, we were calling him Papa, because we could not just afford to call a man who is leading us in Christ brother or saint. At least let's add something to make our conscience free too. Started calling him Papa. When he came to Boya on the 3rd of December 2011, he started up the prayer cell as Life Transformers Prayer Cell. The first meeting he ever convened, he had a population of 48, which was so amazing and so encouraging. Some of us who left from Kumba and those he had evangelized to around. And then when he started growing, the cell started growing, he said, okay, let's remove prayer from it. And that was how it changed from Life Transformers Prayer Cell to LTC. When he moved to LTC, it was amazing. And when the church now started growing, permit me to call it church, it was a cell, but then the gathering of the saints is a church. So started growing, and those he was staying with started fighting because the power of God was so much that they could not contain. The house they gave him to live in, they gave him free because God had used him to bless lives in that family. And since they started fighting him, another lover who loved his grace came up with another place. So he built something together and he started again Life Transformers Cell. And when he was running Life Transformers Cell, he was still called Saint Divine until the 10th of August 2013, when his name was changed from Saint Divine to Prophet Divine. That is how we started calling him Prophet Divine. And now Prophet Divine started continuously with it. He continued with the cell, opened several prayer cells, and the church kept moving from glory to glory until the 27th of April 2014, when God finally transitioned the ministry and it was called Life Transformers Ministries. It transited from prayer cell to cell, now it turned into ministries. And from then it has been so glorious. The start of ministry for Apostle Divine wasn't too, from my experience, it wasn't too smooth, but then it was progressive. The move was progressive and it was so encouraging. That is how we moved from that prayer cell to a new location. And then by the grace of God, still the ministry kept growing, and by the grace of God, Apostle Divine had to buy. This time God had blessed him, and Prophet Divine had to buy about 6 or 7 pieces of land in Munya. This time not the lower Munya, upper Munya, by mile 18. And we left the present location in 2013. December 2013, and we went to our new site in 2014. This was all to the glory of God, because the ministry kept growing, departments kept improving, Apostle Divine himself kept growing. Everything about him was so expanding, all to the glory of God. And on this faithful day where we call it our new site, because when we were at the Chief Street, he used to say God has told him that LTM is going to have an edifice. So in our shallow minds, we thought where we were in that 2014 was the edifice that God had told him, not knowing that there were greater things to come. In 2015, Apostle Divine, in a meeting on the 23rd of December, we had a service, and all of a sudden, after his ministration, all of a sudden he said, somebody should give me a chair. I want to see if there is a cloud, something. I cannot really say the words accurately as he said them, but then he sat on a chair with his white shirt. I'm sure on the shirt there's a number there, 3, is it 3 or 23, something like that. A white shirt he sat, and that was when the office changed from prophet to apostle. So the Apostle Divine, many people know today, was first a saint, to a prophet, and to apostle. And that is how LTM kept improving, kept moving, and it was so amazing because a lot of people got interested. God kept bringing people from left to right at all angles. That was when also, by the grace of God, Apostle Divine had to build. He built an office for himself. He built a bungalow for his office, and he built a session for those who were staying with at the time, and he built a little camp then, and from then some persons started staying with him in the camp. This was so amazing. I mean, seeing a transition from one stage to another, it was a blessing, and he never relented, knowing that God had moved him from one plot of land to about 6 and 7 plots of land. He was not still satisfied. He kept on pressing. His passion never died. His desires were not ceased. The fire kept burning. And then one faithful day, he brought another good news. This is all about Apostle Divine. He brought another good news that, wow, we are going to move But when the news came, he said God has told him that we are going to move. The news came, we're like, is it Mutengene? Is it Limbe? Then he had his evangelism, because usually he would go out in caravans, cars. He came one time for evangelism. That should be 2016 at Mutengene roundabout. He had a huge population. He was giving out some prophecies, praying for people, and then a word of prophecy came to him that he seen a big man coming to Mutengene. Little did he know, and I'm not sure in quotes that he was talking. He knew he was talking to himself, because he seen a big man coming to Mutengene, and that was a prophecy. And after some time, I was privileged then. We went to look for a place in Limbe. The place he saw, he was not satisfied. They took him to another place in Limbe. He was not still satisfied. And then one fateful day, he brought us a paper and he presented, and this is where he has finally purchased for the church. And this was the actual edifice that God told him in 2014. We're all thinking that it was where we were in 2014. In 2014, that is how Apostle Divine started building in Mutengene. The building process was so full of speed, was so much. It was, the Frenchman would say, en vitesse. It was too much. So that is how we moved. He moved from Muya and to the present church location now in Mutengene, with a population of more than 5,000. This is all to the glory of God. From how we started to how God called him to glory, it has been so glorious. The journey has been wonderful, and at every step of the way, there was every reason to stop. But then I saw a man full of life, full of passion, full of commitment, focus, and determination. He didn't want to stop. He kept moving. He kept moving. He kept moving till he got to the destination where God had actually prepared for him. Well, for Apostle Divine, I can say his secret for ministerial good was his commitment to his call, his commitment to the mandate that God gave him. So I cannot really say that he had a particular secret, but he was so much involved himself in the work. He did not allow the work for any other person. He did the work himself. He was involved at all the angles. Is it in the evangelism? Is it in the building? Is it in the bringing up of saints? Is it in the teachings? He was so involved himself in his call. It was his thing. The power of God in life was so genuine. Those who say he's using magical powers. In 2018, someone confronted me and said, yes, you have killed Apostle Divine. And I made one statement to her. I told her that, did you really believe that God was the one using Apostle Divine? The person said yes. I said, then how do you think a man like that can be killed? You cannot kill a man that has so much grace upon him. And the grace of God upon Apostle Divine was extremely genuine. There was no iota of doubt I had, not because I was with him or I loved him. No, it was because I saw it worked for me. If it was just working for others and it didn't work for me, then I would have said, why is it working for those people and it's not working for me? But it worked for me. I saw it in my family. I saw it practically in my family. So there's no way I can remove 1% from it. The call of God upon the life of Apostle Divine is so genuine. And if something is not genuine, it will not last. And you can see the sincerity of his call in the life of his son, Shepherd Hastings. So genuine. Grace can only be replicated if it is from God. I'm really blessed because because it refreshes my memory, and I see a man so full of life once more. And I really appreciate the grace of God upon Life Transformers Ministries, because at a certain point we thought everything would come to a standstill. God showed up again in a mighty way, and I'm really grateful. We are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Life Transformers Ministries. It has been a year. It has been 10 years of grace, 10 years of glory, 10 years of increase, 10 years of expansion, 10 years of laughter and joy, all to the glory of God. And I will not cease, I will not leave this place without thanking His God's choice servant, a man that God raised through the hands of Apostle Divine Shepherd Hastings, for standing strong and for still standing, that the church of God will keep moving forward. And some of us who don't have anywhere to go will have where to stay. Thank you very much, sir.